Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be doing a manga collection for 2019. I hope you're all ready to see some great stuff in the collection. I know you've all been waiting for it, so let's go ahead and get to it. First off, we have is Bleach 1 through 74. That is complete. Really, the ending of Bleach was one of the worst things about it. It was a very rough series, to say the least. Beginning part of Bleach, great, but anything usually for the Blood War, a little bit rough. Naruto, 1 through 18 over here, and then all the way down to 27, up to 40, and then 70 to 72. One Piece, volumes 1 all the way to 61. Rurouni Kenshin 1 through 28. Yu-Gi-Oh! 1 through 7, that is complete. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist 1 through 24, complete. And then Millennium World 1 through 7. This makes up the entire original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. Then we have Yu-Gi-Oh! GX 1 through 9, that is also complete. Shaman King 1 through 32, also complete. City Hunter 1 through 5, that is all that was released in English by Raijin, followed by Slam Dunk 1 through 5, that is all of Raijin's English print. Fist of the Blue Sky 1 through 4, all that was released in English by Raijin, and The First President of Japan 1 through 4, also all that was released by Raijin. Both of these series, or I should say all of these series that Raijin put out, were pretty good in their own right. City Hunter I have yet to fully read. Slam Dunk is obviously a classic, and Fist of the Blue Sky is a great follow-up to Fist of the North Star. And then First President of Japan isn't bad, but it's not terrible, so I mean there's that going for it, I guess. But the other series are all good, and I would love to see a reprint of City Hunter as well as Fist of the Blue Sky. Of course, Slam Dunk got picked up by Viz, so they naturally were able to finish it. But yeah, it kind of just sucks that some of these series are just stuck in limbo. Mushishi, volumes 1 through 10, that is complete. Pretty much just knocking out all my Viz series before I go on to the next. Dr. Stone 1 through 6, that is currently up to date. Love Dr. Stone. It's probably the best modern weekly Shonen Jump series, in my personal opinion, at least as far as I can tell. Zombie Powder 1 through 4, that is complete. The Promised Neverland 1 through 4. Ultimate Muscle 1 through 12. Missing 13 still, and then 14 all the way to 29. Dragon Ball volumes 1 through 16, that is complete. Dragon Ball Z volumes 1 all the way down to 26, that is complete. Dragon Ball Super volumes 1 through 5, believe that is currently up to date. And then the time I got reincarnated as Yamcha manga. Alright, coming back down over here, we have is Knights of the Zodiac 1 through 28, that is complete. Full Metal Alchemist, volumes 1 all the way to 27, complete. Firefighter Diago of Fire Company M 1 through 19, missing 20 still, but once I have 20, that will complete the series. Bastard 1 through 19, that is complete for the English release before it was eventually canceled by Viz. Next is Neon Genesis Evangelion 1 through 14, that is complete. Portis, a one-shot horror manga, not too bad, but nothing too special. Blue Spring, which is another one-shot, also pretty good. Reborn 1 through 16, that was all that was put out by Viz before it was canceled. Go-Go 13, volumes 1 through 13. That is the complete English release of Go-Go 13. They have really no plans of making any more volumes, so this is like a best of series where it just takes the best stories from Go-Go 13 and then serialized it in 13 volumes. It's not bad, but it's not great either. I would definitely recommend probably some of the other series over this one, but it's still enjoyable. Next is Uzumaki 1 through 3, that is complete. Gaio 1 and 2, that is complete. Bao Volume 1 and Volume 2, seeing as we're over here, might as well talk about it. This is pretty much the predecessor to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. A lot of the early concepts that you see in Part 3 with its stands are featured in here, and it's really interesting. So before Part 1 was released, he worked on Bao, which you can definitely tell the early artwork is not great, but is interesting. So it's nice if you find it for a good price, definitely pick it up. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1, Phantom Blood, that is complete. Next is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, Volumes 1 through 4, complete. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, 1 through 16, complete. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable, Volume 1 and Volume 2 in the hardcover editions. Now, these that Viz put out, and I'm just going to show you here real quick, they're not bad. Honestly, I still would prefer if JoJo was in single volumes, just because of the way the Japanese print handled everything. It just looked really nice. Alright, that's not going back, so I'm just going to leave that there. Next is A Drifting Life. This is a omnibus, but man, is this one of the best mangas I've ever read in my life. This is what is known as Gekiga, which is a really cool form of manga expression. It is pretty much the predecessor to early Seinen manga, and you can definitely tell it's a more mature themed series. It's a lot of realistic, more deeper tones that are told through this story. And honestly, Tatsumi work has really changed a lot of the things that I've been doing over the course of me collecting manga, and this is definitely one of the highlights of my collection. I would definitely say that this is easily one of the best series that I've ever read, so definitely would recommend that anyone check out some of Tatsumi's work. And going off of that, we have more Tatsumi stuff. We have The Pushman and Other Stories, another great work. Abandon the Old in Tokyo, which is my personal favorite, and Goodbye, which is my least favorite, but is still pretty good as well. Black Blizzard, which is one of his earlier works, which is also really good. And then we have Red Snow, which is also another Gekiga story that is also really good as well. Coming back down over here, we have is Vagabond 1 through 37. All that is currently out in English, unfortunately. I don't know if we'll ever get a volume 38 or a continuation, but seeing as I don't know why I was saying that. Inoue is probably going to finish Real, and then eventually once that happens, he'll probably pick up Vagabond again, but I can only hope that we have some sort of conclusion in the near future. Next is Goodnight Pun Pun, Volumes 1 through 7. Still one of my favorite series. It's that dark shit, I guess, if I were to quote Aloof Dragons, who loves this sort of thing. It is a very dark series. Don't let the colorful and cartoonish nature fool you. It is definitely a very deep story filled with a lot of mature themes. Not to say that that's a bad thing, it's actually a good thing because the series definitely takes its cartoony art style and makes it into something original. Salonen, which is a one-shot, again, by Inyo Asano. It's not bad, it's not great. I think this series for me was a little bit overhyped and I was left a little bit underwhelmed, which sucks, but is what it is. I enjoyed what I read of it, though. Barefoot Gen 1 through 10, that is complete. Again, this series has been reprinted into both a new paperback edition as well as hardcover. The only reason I have these is because they were dirt cheap. I mean, like, literally, I got these for, like, less than $40, which is below MSRP. So I had to hop on that, and it is a great series. Again, this is a classic case of Gekiga, where it has that very old rustic art style as well as expression featured in the story. And not only that, but it is a very old and classic series, so I really do love this series. Golden Kamuy, Volumes 1 through 10. This is all I believe that is out in English at the moment, and I've been enjoying Golden Kamuy for what it is. It's a very good seinen series. Lots of really good art pieces as well. Sanctuary, Volumes 1 through 9. This is technically my second or third favorite series of all time. I want to say second from my last top 10 that I kind of drew up. But Sanctuary is an amazing story between the great artwork as well as the great partnership that the main character shares with his best friend. This is honestly one of the best stories that have been told in a series, and I really do love Sanctuary. It's a real shame that Viz butchered this release because the translation is garbage, and if they could go back and fix it up a little bit, that would really help it out. Next is Midnight Eye 1 through 3. That is complete. Obscure series. Went on a limb and decided to get into it, so hopefully it's good. Wounded Man 1 through 9, it's not too bad. It's, it's okay. It has definitely that great artwork by Ikigami, but it suffers from kind of a story, so it has that, I guess, going for it. Next is Dark Edge 1 through 3, and then 4 through 7, and then Volume 9, missing 8 and 10. Iron Walk John, Volumes 1 all the way to 27, that is complete. 7 Billion Needles 1 through 4, that is complete. Vinland Saga, Book 1 and Book 2. Now, the funny story with Vinland Saga is I actually have read this series a long, long time ago. I'm talking like 2012 when this series first was starting to come out. And I dropped it because I was reading Berserk at the time, and I was just more interested in what was going on in Berserk. It was the Golden Age arc. It was really interesting. The story was really fun. And then I was like, Vinland's good, but I like Berserk a lot better. And then I just dropped it, and I never looked back. And then afterwards, I was like, all right, well, Berserk kind of went on a sort of loose turn. So I read more of it, and then I was like, well, Vinland Saga is a little bit better, but also, I'm not deep into the story. I've only read up to Book 4, so it's tough for me. I know people want me to start reading it. I know people are, telling me it'll be in my top 10, but with the 4 books I've read, it's good, but it's nothing that I would put above what I already have in my top 10, if that makes any sense. So, Vinland Saga, I'll get to it eventually, but for now, I've been kind of taking a break from it. Fist of the North Star, full color master editions, volumes 1 through 9. That is all that was put out in English by Raijin. These are some very, very beautiful releases. I would definitely recommend these if you can find them for cheap. If not, try to steer away. But if you find them dirt cheap, definitely pick them up. Panorama Island. This is a very cool release done by Maru. And I would definitely say it's probably his second or third best work. I definitely like Mr. Arashi's Freak Show a little bit more, but it's pretty good. And speaking of Mr. Arashi's Amazing Freak Show, here we have is the English release. Good stuff. Hotel Harborview, Part 1, which is also work done by Jiro Taniguchi, which is, again, another really well-known mangaka. This is not his best work, but it's definitely one that's interesting. High School of the Dead full-color omnibus 1 and 2. Nothing really to explain there. It's just the full-color omnibus, and they're cool. Berserk Deluxe Edition 1 and 2, sealed still. Nijigahara Holograph, done by Inyo Asano, also another good work. Devilman Classic Collection, pretty good. And Frankenstein and Shiver, done by Junji Ito. So now I can get back up off the ground, and I can talk about some of this other stuff. Kurosagi Corpse Delivery Service, 1 through 14. All that was released in English, although Dark Horse announced that they're going to be continuing the omnibuses, so there is hope that the series will get finished. Eden, It's an Endless World, 1 through 14. A brilliant series, really awesome, really great stuff, but incomplete because Dark Horse canceled it, so it sucks, but is what it is. MPD Psycho 1 through 11, that is all that was released in English before it was canceled. But going off of Kurosagi, if they continue it, there is hope that MPD will get picked back up. Museum of Terror 1 and 2, otherwise known as Tomy Volume 1 and Tomy 2. Good stuff, not my favorite Junji Ito work, but good. And then also, At the Mountains of Madness. This is a really cool thing that Dark Horse is doing. They're putting out serialized versions of H.P. Lovecraft's work that are done in manga format, and it's really good. Next is The Hound, which was also good, but not as good as The Mountains of Madness. Freezing 1 through 24, that is currently up to date. The Monkey King 1 and 2, forgot about that almost, and that is all that was released in English before it was canceled. Gantz Volume 1 all the way down to Volume 37, that is complete, and then Gantz G 1 through 3, complete as well. Octopus Girl 1 and 2, and then over here we have Volume 3, that was all that was put out in English before it was canceled. And then Lone Wolf and Cub, Volumes 1 through 28. The rest of the series is behind the other books, so I'm not going to move anything, but just got to take my word on it that I have all of Lone Wolf and Cub. And this is one of my favorite series as well. It's a very well thought out series, very rustic, and again, it's that Gekiga, or Gekiga style. I keep saying it and pronouncing it in different ways, but it's Gekiga. But the style is very good for the time period, and again, this is like the earliest that Seinen has ever been adopted, and it's beautiful, it's fantastic, the artwork is again fantastic, characters are great, and of course the action is fantastic. Above we have is the Star Wars manga. We have New Hope 1, 2, and 4, Empire Strikes Back 1, 2, and 4, and Return of the Jedi 1 through 4. Missing just those 2 volumes, but otherwise interesting. I haven't had much of a chance to read this yet, so I'll give you my thoughts probably in my next collection video I put out in like 2 or so years that it's been. It's been a long time. So down here we have is Berserk 1 through 39, still collecting the singles. Volume 40 is set to be released sometime soon, so hopefully we get to that. I think I talked about Mushishi, but just in case I didn't, Mushishi 1 through 10. I like the anime more. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. I finished the anime before I finished the manga, and I think I just prefer the anime a lot more than I do the manga. But the manga is great too. The artwork is also really good. Next is Blade of the Immortal, Volumes 1 all the way down to Volume 31, which is complete. Hideo Osuma's Disappearance Diary, very good series. I have this ranked pretty high on my top 10 list as well. Alright, so that being said, we've come down to some of the Tokyo Pop stuff that I got. We have Battle Royale, the Ultimate Edition, Volume 1 through 5. That is complete. That makes up the 16 volumes that were put out in the single volumes. Cyborg 009, Volumes 1 through 8, and then Volume 10. Still can't find 9 anywhere, but eventually I will. I'm not really too much of in a rush because it's incomplete regardless, but from what I've read, it's pretty good. Next to that is the Skullman, which I just recently picked up. I did read this a long time ago, and I enjoyed a lot of the story as well as the artwork. Definitely one to remember. Next to that is Blame, Volume 1 through 10. That is complete. You know, I read it, thought it was good, but I don't know. I think maybe the hype got to it, but I don't think it's that great. But it was enjoyable, just not the best thing I've ever read. Next to that is Noise, which is like a prequel to Blame, but it may as well just be a part of the story because that's really all it is. Beck Volumes 1 through 10, and then Volume 12. I have Volume 11, but it's a library copy, so I don't display library copies. They're not very good. So, yeah, it sucks, but it's the hardest one to find. Beck is okay. I think, again, this is another case in point where the anime is a lot better than the manga. But it's not bad. The Kendaichi Case Files, 1 through 9 over here, and then 10 and 11. Another great series that we will never see the end of, unfortunately, due to it being incomplete and Tokyo Pop being bust. I doubt that any other company would pick it up, but you never know. There could be a possibility. GTO Volumes 1 through 25, that is the original run, and it honestly, GTO, again, ranked very high in my top 10. Very good series, very good series. GTO, the early years, Volumes 1 all the way down to 15, that is complete. GTO, 14 Days in Shonen, that is complete. Wolf's Mud, Volumes 1 through 8, that is complete. And that pretty much is all the manga on the main shelves that I have. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Osamu Tezuka, which is something that I consider to be my pride and joy. First off, I understand I have the Pokemon Adventures box sets, which I count in my collection as well, which are holding up my Osamu Tezuka books, strangely, but it's not to say I hate those series, I just use them to balance out my books just because they make a nice place marker, essentially. So, Ayako, that is a really good series done by Osamu Tezuka. It tackles more mature themes, I feel, so it's something that's not for the light of heart. I would recommend it as one of Osamu Tezuka's top 10, but isn't my favorite work. Message to Adolf, on the other hand, is a really good series. I highly recommend that. It definitely is an interesting take on the whole character of Hitler, and then also with its setting in World War II. MW, which is, give or take, it's not bad, but it's not one of my favorite works. Buddha is something I think very highly of. I think between not only the story and its characters and themes that it talks about in the series are all very, very good and fascinating. So I would recommend that series to anybody. The Book of Human Insects, not bad, not great, but is something that I think is good that is out, at least by Osamu Tezuka. Blackjack, volumes 1 through 17, that is complete. Really good series. I think it just suffers from its length being a little bit too long. But each series is episodic, so it really isn't something that you need to really follow in a straightforward pattern. You can get something like volume 16, read it, and then read volume 5 if you really wanted to out of order, and you wouldn't have to understand anything that goes on. Dororo, volumes 1 through 3, very classic samurai story, very awesome, and definitely dates back as one of the first ever samurai series to graze the shonen field, and it really shows. It's a good series, so I would recommend it. Ode, Part 1 and Part 2, another good series, not my favorite, but good. The Mysterious Underground Men, I think for the influence as well as notoriety it shares in the manga world, it gets credit from me. It hasn't really aged well in my eyes. I read the story, and the artwork is very dated, but it came out in the 40s, so it's a very dated series, but it's not my favorite. It's good, and I think the influence as well as impact it had on the manga scene definitely influenced a lot of great series. Phoenix 1 through 12, again, this is a series that needs no introduction. It is a legendary series indeed. I think for me, though, the problem is I don't have this series ranked super high as I used to, but if it's for those few volumes, let me tell you, volume 2, this volume right here is going to change lives. This thing foreshadows so much so early on in the 30 or 40 year span that this series went on for. And let me tell you, it is amazing. That's pretty much all I can say without spoiling too much, but Phoenix is a great series. Clockwork Apple, another great series by Osamu Tezuka, and Under the Air, not too bad. That is another one that tackles a lot of heavy themes. So if you're not into the lighthearted stuff that Tezuka put out, like Astro Boy right next to it, strangely enough, I would definitely pass, because this one is definitely more of a darker series. Next to that is Astro Boy 1 through 23. That is complete. Again, Astro Boy doesn't need an introduction. Metropolis, I can't talk. Volume 1, that is a one-shot. Next World 1 and 2, that is complete. And Lost World. And again, Pokemon Adventures 8 through 14 and 1 through 7. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for my manga collection for the month of August 2019. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next one. See you all next time, and peace out.